Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to go into a West Ham preview of sorts, kind of look over some things that I noticed from watching their last game and some snippets from their previous couple games. And then we'll give kind of a squad update for Tottenham and see how everyone's shaking out after international duty. But before I really go into that, I just want to say thank you guys for the support over the last couple of videos. The first 2 weeks of doing this has gone pretty well. I'm happy to see that a decent amount of you are watching the video and seem to enjoy it. So thank you for that. Much more to come. I hope to continue this for long time after this. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at West Ham. And actually, before we take a look at West Ham, I just wanted to quickly go over kind of the updates on Tottenham, because there's not too much to update on after international break. Looks like most people are healthy. I didn't notice any injuries for any players that were out on international duty. It looks like the normal injuries that we've kind of been dealing with, still none of them are really going to be back. So like Dragason's probably not going to be back for a while still. Obviously Decky matters. All those guys are still a little further out. So we should basically have the same, squad of players that we had from the last game, other than the additions of Javi and Kolomwani, who both were in training yesterday. And if you watch the training video with Javi, it was pretty fun. It was pretty impressive. Looks like we could be in for quite a treat this season with him. But also in that training video, you saw Destiny and Kuti and Mickey all back playing in that back line, so it looks like they're all healthy. Pedro was there as well. Jed came back a little bit later because of international duty, which also Jed got his first cap for England, so congratulations to him. That's awesome. So basically all of that to say, Thomas Frank should have the lineup he wants to pick from all the players, and we'll go into that in just a couple moments of who I think he will pick for this game. But it being West Ham coming up on the weekend, the 10:30 kickoff here in the United States at the London Stadium. So away game for us, still in London, obviously. And West Ham over the last couple of weeks, their first 4 games of the season, including their EFL match against Wolves, they looked really, really poor. So let's jump over there and just kind of look at this. So first couple games, you have, as you can see here, we have Sunderland 3-0 loss to open up the season. Not a great loss. Obviously, newly promoted team, so you don't really want to see that if you're a West Ham fan. And then the Chelsea match, I watched live. I watched the whole thing of that. They were absolutely getting destroyed by Chelsea. What was it? 4-0 by the half? Plus 2 goals. I think it was 4-0 by the half. And it was not a good game. The first couple goals, especially, were just getting torn apart in transition. They were spread apart way too much. And it was just not a good performance. They get a late goal. So then we head into the Wolves match. I didn't watch any of that. But obviously we know how Wolves are this season. I'm curious to see who the starting lineups with that were. I mean, that's a pretty strong starting lineup for West Ham, and actually not the first team completely for Wolves, and Wolves get the 3-2 win. So, I mean, heading into the match against Nottingham Forest for the last match before the international break, the talk was very much like West Ham is not in a good spot. What's Potter going to do? Is Potter going to be the coach after the international break? And then they end up getting a 3-0 win, and it ends up being Nuno that gets sacked after the match and not Potter. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle. And obviously, Ange is now with Forest, so that's maybe a discussion for another day. But so they end up getting the win, and they finish the international first chunk before the international window in 16th, the 3 points, and look a little bit better than they had the previous couple games. But what I wanted to go into, because I thought it was interesting, going back and watching the Forest game, because I didn't catch that live, but I watched it this morning. I still don't think they're very good. Like, I think that predominantly what we saw in the previous 3 matches is kind of who West Ham is at the moment. And maybe this is the time that they kick on, because the 3 goals that they got were all after the 84th minute, and they were definitely effort goals. So it doesn't really leave me with much confidence that they are, going to play above what we've seen previously. But let's get into actually looking at now those first couple goals and dissecting them a little bit and kind of look through the numbers and look through some of the screenshots that I pulled here. So before we get to that, I actually want to look at this first. So this is their first goal. So their first goal in the 84th minute. If I pull up my notes here, West Ham quickest to the ball. Paqueta wins possession, quickly shifts it over to Somerville, who drives to the edge of the box, which you can now see here. That's where we're at on the screenshot. Lays it off to Bowen, who just sweeps his leg first time, hits a low roller past Matt Sells at the near post. So how this is kind of set up, as we illustrated there, they win possession off of a throw-in, and they're kind of just the most alert to it. They look the most hungry to grab the ball. Paqueta gets it, shifts it off to Somerville, and Somerville does what he does really well and just drives with the ball. And that's how we get here, right? And so actually what I wanted to point out here is all three of these, I think, were just game stage mental mistakes by Nottingham Forest to some degree, which kind of makes me feel a little bit more, even more like this wasn't West Ham playing really well. This was Nottingham Forest kind of just losing their minds a little bit at the end of the game and conceding what was going to be a 0-0 draw and losing 3-0. So if we look at this, we have a pretty good defensive shape here. Like you can see Murillo is going to cover Callum Wilson making that run. You could maybe be a little bit tighter to Jaron Bowden, but you don't want to be too tight because you want to be able to anticipate his moves and work off of that. But you have Somerville doing a good job to drive in right here. He's in a good position, and he just lays it off to Bowen as he kind of falls down at the same time. But you actually have, a pretty good position from Murillo, and I believe that's probably Nico Williams, to get a block on it. They just don't get a block on it. He kind of, Bowen with his, hitting it first time kind of catches both of them off guard and shoots it between the two of them. And so what I primarily wanted to point out with this one is this, I'm no goalkeeping expert, but this looks pretty clearly like a Matt Sells mistake on this one. So if you see his positioning here, you can see he's clearly sighted. You can see he can see the ball as it's being shot. Like there's no chance that he's not seeing Jared Bowen shooting the ball right there. He's got a clear eye on it, right? So what's interesting about that is that he looks like he's just too slow to react. He sees the ball. You can see the ball is here, right there. He sees the ball. He's starting to shift his weight to that direction. You can still see it's still out around the penalty spot, so 12 yards or so out. So he should have enough time to react. It wasn't the quickest of shots if you watch it in full speed, but he's just past it. And if you actually go back and watch it in full speed, it's strange because it's like you can see him see the ball, make his move, lean in the direction, and start to make his dive, but it's already past him. So it looked like a situation where he's just too slow to react, and maybe that's some mental fatigue in the 84th minute, but it wasn't necessarily like it was probably a really low XG chance is what I'm trying to say, right? So good on West Ham for putting the effort in to win the ball and to make something happen, but a lot of it was Nottingham Forest not doing what they needed to do defensively to prevent that goal from going in. So secondly, this is the second goal. So here we have the ball is in the air right there. You have Lucas Paqueta, who kind of wins it back, but also gets Murillo to kick it over here. I don't know if Murillo's thinking he's going to switch it to another defender over there and just kind of play out of this pressure from Paqueta. But you see Somerville here. He's sprinting to the ball, and in this next screenshot, we can see once he's actually on the ball, Nottingham Forest is going back in a pretty decent, they have pretty decent numbers going back. And what this ends up being, as you can see here, they still have, two guys on him. Like they're in a pretty good position. You have Aina trailing Somerville, and you have Murillo in front. Sorry, not Murillo in front. You have Sangari in front. And so what happens is Sangari just dives at the ball, and a stone cold penalty just completely takes out Somerville's leg. So that's going to be a penalty 10 times out of 10. And you see even the defending here, like you have the players in the right position. Elliot Anderson, I believe that is, Murillo. You have Nico Williams tracking back. So it's like if Sangari doesn't just dive in there, again, maybe a mental mistake at the 86th minute now at this point. So maybe they don't give up that goal. And then Paqueta converts the penalty, and so now it's 2-0. So then the last goal is kind of also just a little bit. It's equally brilliant by Malik Diouf and Callum Wilson, but it is maybe Nottingham Forest kind of just switching off again in a pretty decent position. You have Morgan Gibbs-White down here, Ola Aina, who's kind of looking at that. Maybe you could have Milinkovic closing down the cross of Malik Diouf at this point. But everyone's kind of in a good position. What you don't see here, I'm going to show you in a second, is you actually have Murillo marking Callum Wilson pretty well. That wasn't the best use of the magnifier. Marking Callum Wilson pretty well, right? But what Callum Wilson does brilliantly for this goal, as Malik Diouf also plays in a beautiful cross from the left-hand side. But you have Callum Wilson shading, looking like he's going to make a move to the near post, and then instantly turns his body around as Murillo's still heading towards the near post, and now Callum Wilson's free. And you can see in this next screenshot when he finally is in space, he's completely free. Murillo's trying to react, but it's too late at this point. Callum Wilson is completely free and ready to get on top of the header if it's a good ball, which it was. And you see Callum Wilson headed in for the third goal, just going there, the opposite side, left side of Matt Sells. And so it's like, 3 good actions of effort and this was in the 90 plus 1. So you have 3 really good actions of effort by West Ham, but the rest of the game, really wasn't much. So I also have here in my notes, Somerville, probably the most influential player on the pitch. I believe he came on in the 70th, kind of changed the game in some ways, just giving them a little bit more dynamism and somebody on the ball who could drive forward with it. Because they started with Mateus Fernandes in the left wing position. If we actually switch over here, we can see he was playing left wing, but really what he was doing... Oh no, did I get rid of it? Oh no, here it is. So he was in the left wing position, but he was actually kind of playing... Oh my gosh. Clicking too many buttons, my bad. He was actually kind of playing... kind of a left midfielder position. So he definitely wasn't playing wing. And you can see all 3 of the midfielders, 4 if you include Fernandes. You have James Ward-Prowse very much sat back. You have Fulkrug obviously up forward a little bit more. Paqueta, very heavy in this area here, which if I went back and watched it to watch for him specifically, I wonder if that was because he was constantly having to drop back and try to collect to build out. They only had 58% of the possession, or 42% of the possession, sorry. So it kind of makes me think he was actually probably just sat back a lot deeper in this game. And then Souček as well was kind of shaded out more to the right side to kind of help with Kyle Walker-Peters, who was very much stuck on the touchline there. So, that kind of leads me into what I think the lineups will be for the game on Saturday. And I think this is how they're going to line up, okay? So this is a little bit different than what we had in this match here. Because if we go back to this match here just for one moment, you see we have Jared Bowen on the right, Lucas Paqueta, Mateus Fernandes, like I said, Fulkrug, you have Ward-Prowse, and Thomas Souček kind of in a double pivot there, right? So what I think we will see in this one, because I think it's going to be a very similar game for West Ham. I think we'll have a majority of the possession. I think Spurs will have a majority of the possession, probably similarly to like we had in the Burnley match, and to some degree similar to the Bournemouth match, and which is why I think that he's going to make the substitution and bring in Mateus Fernandes to play in this 3 of a midfield, and Somerville to play on the left wing. Because what we saw, if you remember, and you might have struck it from memory, I don't blame you, but if you remember in the Bournemouth game, getting a hold of possession, turning it over, and getting up the field was a big thing for them in creating the one goal that they had, but creating a lot of the chances that they had as well. Also with that, you had obviously really good pressing from Bournemouth. Not to the same degree for West Ham. They're not going to press to the same intensity and in the same structure as Bournemouth. But I think if they try to execute some of the same philosophies and principles, then they're going to give themselves the best chance to win the game. So you'll probably see something, I don't know if it's going to be like this. Well, you have Paqueta and Fernandes a little bit further, but Paqueta in this game, the last game, was definitely playing more shaded over to the right. Fernandes more over to the left. But Souček was also filling in kind of in this space, so I don't know if you'll kind of just have them maybe in something like this. Maybe they'll rotate, but I think that's kind of the midfield you'll have for this match. And I think you'll still have Fulkrug Obviously, Bowen's going to start. He's captain. I think you'll have Fulkrug because I think he'll want to bring Callum Wilson on in the second half again when the game state's a little bit different potentially. And I kind of thought the same thing for Somerville. Maybe he'll keep him in his back pocket as somebody to bring on in the 60th minute or something like that. But I think if they can get after them early on in the game, similarly to how Bournemouth did against us, that's going to give them a better opportunity to then try to be a little bit more defensive and play a little bit more of the game that they want to and continue to work on the counter. So if you can get a goal early, which is why I think you'll put Somerville in the game. And then I don't see any reason why they don't play with the same back four, and goalkeeper all played pretty well in the last match. So I think that's what you'll see from West Ham. Now, if we shift this around and we go to select team, let's go over to Tottenham now and pull up our saved team here. And let's bring in West Ham as the opposition. Let's get rid of them for 1 second. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see probably Richarlison. We're going to see Richie again lining up at striker. Probably Brennan again. Probably Kudus again. Sarr, I don't know if we'll see any rotation with him and Bergvall because Sarr played quite a few minutes. Spence played some minutes and Udogie didn't, so you'll probably end up seeing Udogie play in there. I don't think we'll see any rotation on the back line. I don't believe that Pedro Porro... now I'm second guessing myself. I don't remember if he went out on international break with Spain or not, but obviously Spence did, so maybe you'll see Porro there again. I think you'll see Paulinho back here. I think you'll see Simmons, and I think you'll see Sarr. I think you'll see Thomas Frank, whoever he plays in the midfield. I think it'll definitely be Javi starting. I think he's going to try a little bit more of a progressive and attacking midfield in this one, especially if we look at how we played in the Burnley game. We'll probably have more possession like that. And so you want players who aren't as defensively solid. You don't need that in this game. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes in the Bournemouth game. Obviously worked against City, but where you'll have a majority of the possession. In this one, predictably, I think you'll see Sarr in here, or if not, you'll see Bergvall. You'll probably see Paulinho. If you don't see Paulinho, you'll probably see Bentancur. But I think you'll see this, and maybe it rotates to this at times, and you see Javi kind of take up this space while Brennan stays over here, and Richie's in here, and Kudus kind of floats in between here when Pedro Porro's coming up and attacking. I think that's what you're going to see in this match. And so when we bring in West Ham now, so when we have the ball, when West Ham has the ball, I think they'll be attacking, they'll be looking to do the same things in attack as, now I got all my guys all over the place. Let me put this midfield together real quick. My bad, apologies. I think when West Ham has the ball, you'll see a similar thing with, oh gosh, I just realized I put this together on the wrong side of the pitch. And so when we have the ball, I think what you're going to see is West Ham defending in kind of this situation here. So you say Javi has the ball here. Maybe we get a turnover there. They're going to be pressing the ball like that. Say they get that. You'll see Jared Bowen and Somerville try to break on the counter again. I think that's probably how they're going to try to attack this one, with Fulkrug obviously running through. Bowen, if they can win the ball with Fernandez or Paqueta, that gives them a really good opportunity to turn and get out on the counter and try to create something. But I think that's really their only opportunity to do something. So I think that's probably going to be the way that West Ham is going to try to attack us in this game. I think they're going to have to try to get out onto the counter. And if they can do that, that gives them the best chance. I still think that we're going to see a similar situation as we did in the Burnley game, where we're going to have the majority of the possession, and especially having Xavi in this one, we're going to have somebody who's really good in tight spaces, is able to combine and will be able to create something out of nothing, which is going to help a lot if you're going up against a team who's sitting back really deep in their own half. The one thing I would like to point out as well, or what I hope to see, is that I hope we also get a glimpse of Randall Kolo Muani in this one, because his ability to combine and play in the box would be very helpful for this one. I think if we're playing more on the transition, Richie's probably a better player for his hold-up play and everything. But if we're playing with more possession, I think Randall Colomawani would be a better fit at striker. So hopefully we see him. I'm just like a little bit hesitant to put him in the starting 11 because I don't know if Thomas Frank will do that, having never seen him play in a match yet. Whereas I think, you can make the same argument about Xavi, but that's just such a need for us to have a creator in that position, that I think you will put Xavi in the starting 11. But anyways, that's my thoughts on this one. Hopefully it goes well. 10 o'clock, 10:30 kickoff for us here in the United States. So that'll be a pre-lunchtime kickoff, be able to wake up, have a little breakfast and coffee, and get stuck into the match. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. Also note, I'm going to try to keep the same structure of videos to some degree on around matches. So we'll usually have a preview before the match, have a reaction right after the match, and then a day or two later we'll have kind of a film breakdown, a little bit of a analysis of what happened in the game, whether we win or lose. So yeah, stay tuned to that. Looking forward to Saturday, and appreciate you guys watching this one, and appreciate all the support over the last couple weeks. So thanks again. Catch you in the next one.